pregnant, this is the 2-year plan. First 2 years are debt-free. You don't have to pay the government anything back. So she doesn't get to drag him into court and the court doesn't say, you owe us money for investing in your child through food programs, through early Head Start programs. Because in those 2 years, the boy has the option, or not an option, he has the demand of the co-man to then go to a trade school. You have to go to a trade school, which incentivizes the United States to do it because we need more tradespeople.
So for 2 years, she can't go to court and demand that the person that impregnates her, that is not with her, has to pay to help financially support the child that she is carrying, doesn't have to financially support her because he's going to be in trade school for 2 years. So in that time, she's going to be pregnant and going to have medical bills. She's going to have to feed herself as well as her child, who will then be a toddler. But for 2 years, he goes to trade school. Okay, but let's continue.
Yes, okay, go ahead. After that boy graduates, you get a further incentive if you and the girl marry.
So it's incentivizing him to marry her. He not gonna marry her before he gets her pregnant. He gonna marry her after he gets her pregnant and 2 years after he goes to school. In those 2 years, does it stop him from impregnating more people? Because in the country that we live in, you can't marry more than one person at the same time.
You can do this from the executive order because the money that funnels down from the feds through the states to help mothers, then it can be attached. Well, we're not only helping mothers, we're helping fathers too. If a boy gets a woman pregnant.
So you mentioned trickle down economics, and that has helped us how? But also I want to talk about the fact that you are suggesting that if a boy gets a woman pregnant, so either you are adultifying a girl or you are over-sexualizing a boy. This whole argument has more holes in it than an ant pile. How is this man supposed to be the leader of the Black community in some sort? I don't understand.
Me either. As we talked about yesterday, and welcome back to the Karen Hunter Show. I know there are a lot of people out there. Some of you in Atlanta, you love Killer Mike. He won Grammys. It's very nice. As I mentioned, he was on this show. Very, very affable. He's very smart and very polite. Raised well. But he's not a political leader. And for him to have RFK Jr., who feels like he's tricking people in a barbershop and putting out this plan, which, I mean, just right there, colorful story. Yeah, 2 years. All right, you get a woman pregnant, but you're a boy who gets a woman pregnant. And he corrected himself like he was intentional about the boy and the woman, which is very weird. But she's pregnant. They have a child. His whole thing is child welfare. And I covered child welfare for the New York Daily News for 3 years on the editorial board. Being a family court is one of the most depressing places in the world because the last place you want is for the courts to decide what goes on in your household. And it favors women over men, definitely. And at the center are children that aren't, to me, ever serviced. This plan, Killer Mike, I know he sat there and he thought this was a good plan because, yes, we want more young men going to trade school. He talked about the overwhelming number of Black women that are educated, which is why we're having a hard time coming together because the boys are feeling like they're inadequate. So let's send them to trade school so they at least can, step up and be and contribute. And then during those 2 years, don't saddle him with child support so he can get himself on his feet. And on his face, it sounds great. Yes, we want these young men to thrive, but not at the cost of the child and the mother. You stuck your sperm in her. 866-801-8255. Yeah, she opened her legs. Everybody's responsible, but the child, again, is going to be suffering during these 2 years. And then you couple that with, colorful story, what happens if he impregnates another woman during the 2 year period? Can't marry her? Does she not get child support? What if he impregnates three? I'm working on the project right now where a man had 3 children, all the same age. And I'm not even talking about Nick Cannon and them because he's got money. Future got money. What's the young NBA, whatever, the young boy NBA? They got money. But what about regular ass people? This plan, I know he thinks it makes sense. But then you're sitting there asking RFK, who will never be president of the United States of America, to write in executive orders. And I know he's speaking to a larger audience. I know Killer Mike believes that he is, probably deploying a strategy by having this conversation in public in a barbershop in Atlanta with RFK Jr. because he's making a larger point. And I actually applaud the attempt to try to solve some of the problems that we have in the community. I'm not going to ever denigrate somebody for doing that. But there's a lot at stake, and there are a lot of people listening that might feel that this is validating Robert Kennedy, who not only was out there during the height of COVID telling people not to get vaccinated or that vaccines were a hoax and all of the conspiracy theories that went along with them, while I believe he himself might have been vaccinated, or he himself, like, it's so weird. Trump was vaccinated. Trump got the Paxlovid, whatever the hell the name of the the magic cure at the time, and out there spreading it. And it's so disheartening that we live in a world such as this. And I do believe Killer Mike cares. I think he really wants to see Black people come together and have power. But I don't know if this is the answer. I actually, as I'm looking at this, I've watched the whole clip with Killer Mike and RFK, and a lot of people are, really coming down strongly against Killer Mike for even being in this situation. He's in so many ways, similar to Charlamagne the God, but not, because I don't know that Charlamagne the God is in the community doing the work that Killer Mike has been doing. I don't know that. I actually think Killer Mike is not doing this for the gram. I don't think he's doing it for attention. I think he really seriously cares about the future, and in his mind, with his limitations, because I also feel, having been around people of this caliber, actually, I don't want to say higher caliber, more successful people. When you are in this space and you're a little bit smart, this has been my experience. You feel like the smartest person in the room, because oftentimes you are. And that can be a trick bag, because in being in a room where you might be the smartest at 20 and then you have sycophants around you because you have some success, people don't challenge you. So then, and this happens in all areas. It's not just rappers or entertainers. I see it in corporate America. I see it in Donald J. Trump, who got handed a whole entire $1 million plus real estate business from his daddy and felt that he was smart and a brilliant businessman. You didn't do what your father did. You got handed. I didn't get anything. You got $1 million. Raise your hand, anyone, if you've gotten $1 million from your daddy. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. My hand is not up, by the way. So, for most of us, who've had to build something from nothing, it's a hard thing, and it builds character, and it also humbles you, because you're going to fail and fall. His default has been bankruptcy. And in a lot of these spaces, especially when people come in with a little bit of education, which he has, and some, grounding in community, which he has, and you're surrounded, or your audience are folk who don't have any of the things, you feel like you have all of the answers. But you've never really developed and grown beyond that, because where are the challenges, right? And so then everyone who's challenging you is a hater. No, we see the future, because we've lived it and we see what's happening in this world, and you're not helping. And it also tells me that there aren't any really good advisors. And we also can see that there's a very insulated way in which a lot of people move. So that's what I see when I see Killer Mike. I don't see somebody that, means harm and he wants horrible things to happen. I see someone who has been swept up in his own mythology. That said, is there a problem in the Black community with fatherlessness? I don't think that's our problem. I think our problem is racism. I think that's the problem, more so than anything. I think racism is the problem. So, and when I say racism, I mean a system that has codified into law poverty, miseducation, and lower education, and a lack of opportunities to excel in business. That's what I see. So, yeah, that's going to breed a whole lot of things, coupled with an entertainment industry that pushes out constantly the worst versions of humanity onto us in the world. Like, this can't be, which is why I'm always going to double down on the opposite. So, for example, when Bernie Sanders was running, and I think he was on the show, Smiz, and he kept talking about, hey, Bernie, poverty. What are you going to do? Oh, we're gonna hit poverty and criminal justice reform. Those things are needed because those things are both rooted in racism. Let's fix those things. But to talk to Black people only about poverty and crime, when the most dangerous place is Alaska, Anchorage in the country, it's not Chicago. Chicago's not even in the top 10, but you keep feeding these narratives as if it's dangerous to be in these Black neighborhoods, right? It's dangerous to be Black in America. Black people are dangerous and you're impoverished when 74.6% of us are not impoverished. So you got to come with a whole laundry list of things when we come to the table. But unfortunately, when you go to rappers who have been part of a cycle that have fed the world degenerate, dehumanizing images of Black men and Black women, it's hard to walk back and then talk about this 2-year plan of trade school and child support waiving and all of this. And if she's pregnant, you got to marry her and all. It's really hard when your messages have been antithetical to that. So again, in order to not be a hypocrite, let your yes be your yes and rap about the things, if that's what your game is, that you want to see happen, because words are powerful and you speak them into creation, which is why I love the Jasiri X's and the folk that are out there, Immortal Technique and Talib Kweli and all of the folk that are actually using their art and also in their community. So those are examples of people who are in the community doing some things, and at the same time, their art reflects that. That's all I'm saying. So it's hard to take Killer Mike serious about this, especially when he's in a barbershop with RFK, who is a problematic person.